everybody, welcome to Yoga with Catherine. Today we're going to be doing a quick full body stretch, but we're going to make it fun and different and dynamic. The thing is that with stretching, it can get a little bit boring. It's also difficult to create a combination that's just fun. So I thought I wanted to just create a yoga class that makes stretching, both active and passive, really fun, interesting, and dynamic. So enjoy this full body stretch. Let's get started. All right, so we are going to begin on our backs. So just slowly make your way there. Find a comfortable position on your back. You know the drill. Knock your knees together, feet out wide, toes facing in. Place your hands on your hips. Take a deep inhale through the nose. And exhale, release. Allow yourself to melt into the mat. Just doing a quick detailed scan of the body, muscle by muscle, bone by bone, making sure that all your muscles are released, relaxed. Getting into our body here, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which really helps with improving flexibility. Let's take one more cleansing breath. Deep inhale through the nose. And exhale, side out. Place your hands on either side of you and stamp your feet up towards the ceiling. Flex your feet a lot and spread your toes out. Take a deep inhale through the nose again. As you exhale, I want you to draw your toes towards your face as much as you can. So we're getting deep into the hamstrings here. If you need to bend the knees, totally fine. Don't lift up your tailbone here. Keep that glued and driven into the floor. Deep inhale. Utilize your breath as you exhale. Pull your toes closer towards you. Really drawing that tailbone down and away from you. Inhale. Draw your legs closer. And then release. From here, point one foot and then the other. So we're flexing one, pointing one. Opening up some movement into the ankles. And then from here, let's draw circles with the ankles. And if they hit one another, feel free to kind of just separate them a little bit. But we're just inviting movement that doesn't typically happen in the ankles, which is just really important for what we're going to do. Now I'm going to invite you to bring your wrists into the play. So we're going to do some wrist circles. Feel free to do the same. Challenge yourself if you can try to do the opposite moves. Just inviting some brain games into this as well. Maybe flexing and pointing your wrists and your feet at the same time. Just noticing how that feels. And you might feel some burning sensations here. That's because you're not typically doing these movements. So those muscles are activated and what's happening. And then with your wrists, just with your right fingertips, grab your left fingertips and then pull your fingers towards you. So we're going to do a little bit of a wrist stretch. You can keep your feet stamped towards the floor, towards the ceiling, and then toes towards you. So they are staying in the legs up the wall position. And then we'll do the opposite, pulling the left fingertips towards us in the opposite direction. Keep the breath nice and steady here. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side with the left fingertips. Pull the right fingertips back. And then pull them towards you the other direction. Send your fingertips out towards the ceiling again. And then bend your knees into your chest as you reach for the outer corners of the feet. Find happy baby. Stamp the feet up towards the ceiling. Sometimes I have to kind of get my knee in the right position for happy baby. So feel free to fidget or kind of just get that out the way, whatever you need to do to be comfortable here. Take a deep inhale through the nose. And then as you exhale, pull the knees closer towards the mat. I invite you to find some movement here. Maybe rock from side to side. Maybe straighten one leg and then the other. If you're going to be straightening the one leg and then the other, sometimes it's easier to take your two fingers and then wrap them around your big toe, and then you really have a lot of grip. So you can kind of play around there, get a little bit ape-like. Just kind of tapping into the body's natural desire for movement. And if you just want to stay stagnant, just keep the breath nice and steady and allow your knees to keep floating deeper towards the mat as you send your tailbone down and back. So you want to make sure you're not lifting this up. Your tailbone is glued to the ground and your back is nice and straight. Let's take one more breath here. If you were moving around, let's come back to neutral, happy baby. Exhale it out. Bring your heels towards your bum, close your knees like a book, and then bring your hands behind your knees, rock and roll all the way to the top. Maybe you rock up once and then fall all the way back down. Maybe you have to rock a second time, maybe even a third time. Just play around with it until you're all the way up. You have enough momentum to get to the top. Then we're going to meet in staff pose. So basically the same thing that we were doing on our backs, except now we have our feet out in front of us. And you are also going to be flexing, pulling the feet towards you. So we're really activating those muscles around the ankles and in the feet and spreading the toes. Spreading the toes is amazing for your feet, for the strength of your feet, for the flexibility and mobility of your feet. So that is why we're just kind of practicing this throughout. Spread the toes, pull them towards you. Inhale, lengthen the spine as long as you possibly can, like there's a string pulling you from the top here. As you exhale, draw your chin back and down. Okay, now I want to just point out, I did not just say down. I want you to really drive your chin back and then pull it down. We have a really long spine. Inhale, lengthen even more. As you exhale, we're going to slowly fold forward, okay? Now, if you need to bend your knees, please do. But what we're looking for here is a long stretch along your spine, not in the hamstrings. We're not focusing on the hamstrings right now. We're focusing on the nerve stretch along your spine. So we forget that it's not just muscles that are involved in flexibility. We need to be stretching our nerves. So that's what we are getting into. And if you don't feel anything, draw your chin down even more, and you should start to feel a weird sensation along your spine. Once you do, deep inhale. Exhale, pull even closer. So you want to get even deeper into that stretch. You can get really intense. Deep inhale. Exhale even more. Folding deeper. One more inhale. Exhale, fold. And then slowly roll all the way back up to the top. Whew, feels kind of weird. All right, so now bring your feet, bend your knees and then bring your feet hip width distance apart and they're flat on the mat. And then bring your hands just behind your hips, so it's not in line, slightly behind, maybe like an inch. Let's take a deep inhale through the nose. And then as you exhale, you're going to send your hips up towards the ceiling, coming into reverse tabletop. So this is also a really intense stretch on the front of your shoulders and your biceps. So remember to breathe, and if this is too much, feel free to just drop the bum a little bit and you can just kind of play around until you feel that feeling in the front of your arms and also the back of the wrists. Otherwise, really drawing your hips up towards the ceiling. Inhale. And then as you exhale, watch closely. I'm going to draw my bum back and I'm going to come up onto the backs of my heels and I'm going to push my bum past my arms, okay? Now, if you're flopping all the way down to the ground and you really can't go that far, that's okay. We've just got to be working on the hip flexibility and mobility and strength, all right? So come as far as you can. If you need to plop down, that's okay. And then see if you can push yourself back up. Take those necessary breaks, but just playing around with this movement. So inhaling to come up. Exhale, push back. Coming up onto the heels. Inhale up, push up. Exhale back. One more time. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, push back. And then come to sit. All right, so next we're gonna find cat-cow and we're gonna play around a little bit with it. So finding a nice tabletop position. Knees beneath the hips, wrists beneath the shoulders. Inhale, draw the belly button down towards the mat as you send your gaze out in front of you. Exhale, round the spine, tuck in the tailbone, push the shoulder blades away from one another. Inhale, arch. Exhale, round. On your next arch, you're going to bring your bum all the way back to your heels as you arch. And then as you round, you're going to draw your belly button up towards the ceiling, rounding and coming forward. Inhale, arch, and push all the way back to your heels. Exhale, round, floating all the way up. Either stopping here. If you want to take it even further, feel free to come into seal. Drawing your tailbone down, coming all the way back up, rounding. Now don't just go into that willy-nilly. You do want to be nice and slow with that one. That is a very deep back bend. But if you want to give it a go, just push your hips down, widen out the backs of your feet, and then draw your shoulder blades together, lift up the chest, send your gaze out in front of you, and then just push back, rounding the spine. Floating back up. Let's do one more round. Pushing back. And then find neutral tabletop position. Tuck your toes. You can bring your knees a little bit closer if you need to, and then come to sit on top of your feet. So you should feel a nice little stretch right here. Lift all the way up, so your hips are coming up. Untuck your toes. Come all the way back down. Then lift all the way back up, tuck the toes, and push back. So we're going to go do a few rounds of this. If you feel a lot of tightness in your feet, this is really good to loosen them up, work your ankles a little bit, get that mobility and flexibility going in that area. It's very neglected. So we do want to get that movement in if you can. One more round. Okay, plant your hands down on the mat and then untuck your toes again. From here, take this nice and slow. We're gonna lift all the way up, almost like a down dog, but you're just gonna lift up till you feel a stretch in the front of your feet and then float back down. Inhale up, exhale down. So push out through the palm. Don't allow your shoulders to lift and for this to be weak. Really activate the arms here so that you can practice also getting weight onto your wrists and your arms here. So it's kind of just like a full body work. You'll feel a lot of work in the quads here too. One more round. And down. Beautiful job. From here, we're going to come into downward facing dog. So come back to tabletop, tuck your toes back, send your hips all the way up to the sky, and feel free to pedal out the feet as needed. Just enjoying this down dog, drawing the chest towards your knees, even more if you can. Keeping the breath nice and steady. And then we're going to bring our knees out as wide as the mat, bring the big toes to touch, push back, wide child's pose. That's so funny. And here you're just drawing the chest towards the mat as much as you can to get deep into the shoulders here. With each exhalation, see if you can draw the chest even closer to the ground. One more breath here. Now, we're going to come into froggy from here, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. If your knees get sensitive on the ground, feel free to grab a blanket or a pillow that you can put underneath your knees. Of course, not too fluffy. You don't want to lift them up too much. It might make the pose more difficult. But what we're going to do from here is come forward and find froggy pose. So sink deep into this really, really, really deep hip opener. So your knees are in line with your hips, and then you're creating a 90-degree angle with your legs and flexing your feet, spreading the toes just like we've been doing this whole time. Take a deep inhale through the nose. As you exhale, push back just 1 inch, really not pushing back a lot, and it might not even be 1 inch. Just do what feels right in your body and then come back up. Push back 1 inch, come back up. Two more rounds here. Beautiful job. Bring your big toes back to touch, push back into that child's pose position, and then bring your knees together to come to a comfortable seat. Inhale, reach your arms all the way up to the sky, bring your hands to heart center. Thank you so much for doing this challenging flexibility practice with me. It was really fun and unique. It's amazing for the body to create that mind-body connection where you're creating those new connections with movements. So challenging yourself in this fun way is amazing for the brain, for the heart, for the body, and everything. So I hope that you enjoyed it. See you next time.